Hello, so today's going to be a pretty good Highroll game. This is actually going to be one of the more reliable, like, quote-unquote fast 9 boards that you can play in certain spots. But this is going to be like a vertical shapeshifter game. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out this line. It used to be very similar, and there's some nuances with how units got buffed and adjusted. So, you know, one time I went like 8th playing something similar, and then this time now it's going to be a very, very strong game or very high placement. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you saw the thumbnail or you read the title, you know, chances are you already know what's going to happen here. But basically, playing around Shapeshifter is really strong. A lot of the different Shapeshifter units themselves got buffed progressively over the course of the last couple of patches, and the Shapeshifter trait, especially in this patch, got buffed in general. So playing vertical Shapeshifter is actually really viable, and there's a lot of different lines that you can play towards them. But one of the most reliable ways to capitalize off of Shapeshifter is to fast 9 playing around Shyvana. Shyvana can work really well as a tank slash mid game carry that you can use to tempo your way into a level 9 board where you're then playing around Smolder and Briar and trying to, like, you know, get into a very, very good and strong spot. So it's Prismatic Prelude, so we're going to see a Prismatic Augment first. I see Subscription Service. I think that it's pretty good. Witchcraft Crown is a little bit forcing. I hate playing around Witchcraft, so that's an instant click off. Buried Treasures I actually like a lot of times. It plays towards my style of just like making items and being strong early, but I don't think it's that strong relative to Hard Commit or Subscription Service. Now, Subscription Service is really good. It just gives you instant direction and a little bit of gold, and you can basically just start your game off really, really strong with a bunch of 4 costs. I decided to roll and I just take Hard Commit. If you look at the stats, Hard Commit is actually really good, and you'll see that I hit Shapeshifter Crown, so that's why we're talking about Shapeshifter. So now if we go through stats, I'm just going to start talking about stuff. So if you go on Augments, and you go the Prismatic in terms of the placing, excuse me, Hard Commit averages a little bit above 4.5, which means that it's pretty average, it's pretty good to take. And then if the other option that I was considering was Subscription Service, you'll see that it averages a little bit worse. That's why I just decided, fuck it, we'll just take Hard Commit. Hard Commit is really interesting. So if you go Hard Commit, basically you gain a random emblem. Now it did get buffed recently. I don't remember which patch it got buffed, but now it gives you like currently and then at the start of each stage. Before it used to be at the neutral rounds, like at the carousel, but now it's at the start of each stage. You gain a 1-star champion of the trait with the cost equal to the stage max 5. Now, I'm not 100% sure because I don't know the inner workings of it, but I would say I'm like 90% sure that with Hard Commit, you always get an emblem that is tied to at least one of the 5 cost units, because it needs to give you a 5 cost at one point in the game. So you're going to get your 5 costs at stage 5, so at the start of stage 5. So if you can live till stage 5, you actually have like a goal to strive for. A lot of times when you're playing around vertical traits, like if you think about Bastion, if you think about Multi-Striker, if you think about Shapeshifter, a lot of times it's like, do I hit that 5 cost? And sometimes you might roll an insane amount of gold at level 8, or you might level all the way to 9 and roll a bunch of gold and you don't find a single copy of the unit that you want. And that's where it becomes really difficult. Hard Commit kind of removes that aspect, but at the same time it forces your hand a little bit, because it kind of forces you to play one of these vertical traits, and sometimes you might not have the items for it or the spot for it, so it's a little bit risky. The best thing you can hit is one of the frontline ones, in my opinion, because then you can adjust the way that you play your backline a little bit. If you look at the different options though, Hard Commit is actually not that bad because a lot of them are really good. You can get an Eldritch emblem, Shapeshifter emblem, you can get a Chrono emblem, a Multi-Striker emblem, you can get a Frost emblem, a Bastion emblem, you can get a Fairy emblem or a Scholar emblem, you can get a Witchcrafter and a Preserver, or you can get a... I don't think you get Preserver, by the way, because there's not a 4-cost Preserver. Maybe I'm just wrong with that. But you can get a Witchcraft emblem, and then you can get Portal emblem or Mage emblem and Blaster emblem. So or even Arcana emblem. Arcana emblem is actually one of the best ones. Of these options, a lot of them are very flexible and you have a lot of options for. Like there's certain ones like Fairy, for example, Arcana, that are like insanely good and very flexible in how you decide to play around it. There's some that are like Portal, where you just know what you're playing right off the rip. You're just playing vertical Portal. Stuff like Bastion, now that Bastion got buffed, usually that one was a pretty big miss, but it's actually pretty good, and you could play around 8 Bastion with the Diana. But Shapeshifter works out really well. Even outside of having a Shapeshifter emblem, a very common board that you'll see is something that looks like this. Basically, you will just play vertical Shapeshifter. A lot of times it's 6 Shapeshifters, so I can just put the Jace to the side, and then you just play around the Shyvana. You don't have to, now you could reroll this line, right? You could go for like Shyvana 3, Nomsy 3, and play like a Hunter and do that whole reroll setup. But a lot of times, Shyvana 2 with Vertical Shapeshifter, because she scales so well off of both Dragon as well as HP, getting Vertical Shapeshifter on Shyvana actually makes it so she's really, really strong in the mid game. And a lot of times you can just like itemize this Shyvana in maybe like a 1-star backline unit, like a 4-cost Varus, 1-star Varus, for example, as an item holder. And a lot of times you can actually make it to level 9 very easily, because with Shyvana, you're basically just making like AP tank items. So like, you know, something like Spark, Crown Guard is really good on her a lot of the time, because it just gives her a second lease at life, as well as giving her a bunch of AP. You can also make like tank melee items, something like a Titans is also alright on her. But a lot of times you want to like just balance your items and think towards itemizing a Briar, because with hard commit you will get a Briar eventually. But basically what you're trying to do is just play 3 Dragon. The Dragon upgrade for Shyvana and Smolder and Nomsy as well makes you really, really stable. So if you high roll into a Smolder, you can stabilize around the Smolder on level 8. Or you're going to try and go fast 9, find a Smolder, and then your Shyvana 2, not even Shyvana 3, Shyvana 2 will be very, very strong and do a shit ton of damage for majority of the game. And by the time the Shyvana falls off, then you're going to be itemizing towards the Briar. So a lot of times you'll play, if you have a Shapeshifter emblem like me, then you're going to play 8 Shapeshifter. And then usually you're trying to still go fast 9, but then you just drop the Varus. Varus just gives Blaster and Pyro. Blaster is really important for Smolder, but the Shapeshifter is a little bit more important. And then you just play around the Briar 2 instead, right? The items that you would have put on Varus and Smolder, you just itemize the Briar as your primary carry with 8 Shapeshifter, and the Briar will get things done for you. So that's pretty much how you play the board. This is a really common fast 9 board, especially the 6 Shapeshifter version. You'll see that a lot of times on level 8, you'll just play 2 Blaster with Varus, and that's another variation that you can play. And then you just hold on to a Nomsy. Level 9, you fit in the 3 Dragon, and then you just like work towards getting a Briar itemized, as well as keeping your Shyvana. And then maybe by the time it's the end of the game, you high roll yourself into a Shyvana 3 as well. This is also the board that you play with Draconic Mastery, which I did talk about another time. So it's a bit of an info dump right away. We kind of skipped over stage 2 just to go over everything. But if you look at my start, basically I just started with Shyvana. I made a Titans. So the early game slams that I had, I said to myself, well, Titans is maybe not the best item on Shyvana, but it's a melee frontline item that can work with Shyvana. And in the worst case scenario, late game, I could remove it and put it on a Briar, because I know that I'm going to get a Briar so long as I live till stage 5. My stage 2 is pretty weak. Like I said, this comp really requires you to get Vertical Shapeshifter in, as well as a Shyvana 2. Shyvana 2 will carry you and make you like pretty stable for most of the game. Shyvana 2 with like Vertical Shapeshifter, I find she works almost as well as like a 4-cost. Like, you know, she's not as good as something like a Rakan 2, Callista 2 setup. I'm not saying that it's like giga broken, but what I'm saying is that you're stable. You won't get really bad losses during your stage 3 and your stage 4 if you're trying to fast 9 with this board. So long as you find some level of stability. If you high roll into a Smolder, then you just win the game for free, it feels like. You just go straight to 9, roll all your gold on 9, try and find Smolder 2, and then just stabilize around 3 Dragon, and you're really strong. If you're not in that type of situation, then you kind of have to really play around your items the best that you can in order to make sure that you are healthy enough to make it to level 9. Like I said, this is a very common fast 9 board. If you have a lot of Shyvanas and Nomsys, you can also go Shyvana, Nomsy reroll. A lot of times you reroll Twitch, Nomsy, as well as a bunch of Shapeshifters and Shyvana. And that's usually like more towards like Draconic Mastery and stuff like that. So you want to be really careful if you're rerolling Shyvana, because sometimes she does like a lot of work, and then sometimes if she just doesn't have enough damage, your items aren't perfect, sometimes it falls really flat, and then you can't get to a point where you stabilize really hard. But either way, this game I'm probably, because I'm going to be getting a Briar, I'm going to be getting Shapeshifter emblem, or that I have a Shapeshifter emblem, I know that I'm going to be getting a Briar because of hard commit. I'm more inclined to try and push levels to make it to like level 9 and play around that. If that makes sense, at least. So as you can see, this is the Shyvana. So this guy was, he's what's it called? Build-A-Bud into this, Jax upgraded. Now my Shyvana doesn't have the best items, but this is what I was trying to say. I kind of win a lot of these fights. If I didn't win this fight, it would be a narrow loss. That's kind of how a lot of your mid-game goes. That's one of the strongest guys in the lobby. So, you know, I might not win every fight because sometimes Shyvana just griefs. She does this thing where she transforms and she dives the backline. So there's a good chance that Shyvana might just like throw the game or throw a particular round. It's a little bit unreliable sometimes, especially if you don't have the damage on deck. But for most of the time, you're going to not be losing super hard. So you're going to save a lot of HP in these mid rounds. You can just focus on building up econ, right? So here, I just play 6 Shapeshifter. Now my Nomzy won't have as much damage because I took out Hunter, but 6 Shapeshifter, I'm just kind of hoping that Shyvana stabilizes me and carries me throughout this middle game. Shyvana's damage scales off her HP, so getting in 6 Shapeshifter is huge because it gives her a huge boost in HP, and then Shapeshifters, once they transform, they gain triple the HP boost. So while she's getting like 27% more HP, she's gonna gain like 100 HP. Her HP basically gonna double when she transforms. Not exactly, obviously you can do the math and figure it out, but it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you get the idea, you get the picture, and that scales her overall damage. So like I said, some boards, they might be a little bit stronger. There's obviously going to be high rollers. It's a prismatic lobby. My opening trait was just a Shapeshifter emblem. That doesn't mean that I'm particularly strong right now. Until I hit like 8 Shapeshifter, it's kind of useless to play around the Shapeshifter emblem a lot of the cases. So, you know, for example, this guy who has Rumble 2 with triple items, I have no Shred to chew through this Rumble items and armor. So, you know, I couldn't clutch it out with the Nomzy like I did prior. But, you know, it's okay. On level 7, I can play the extra Hunter to help out the Nomzy. I'm pretty sure it's always 6 Shapeshifter, by the way. The extra damage that you give on the Nomzy, I don't think is worth it. I think it's just better to have the survivability. Here, I'm not 100% sure, so I actually tried it out in this game. So this is, like, you know, I dropped out a 6 Shapeshifter here, and I just want to see, like, how things look like they're going. Oh, maybe I didn't try it out. I tried out in one of the games. Maybe it was the game that I lost that I tried it out. I remember it not being as good. I remember, like, 6 Shapeshifter is usually the way to go in your mid game, and you just play this type of board. Another thing you have to note is that because you're always playing Dragon in this type of board setup, it actually works really well with your items. If you're trying to fast 9, if you're trying to tempo, you typically want to slam items as early as possible because you don't want to run into a situation where you're losing rounds because you're greeting your items too much. You want to preserve HP and give yourself a good opportunity to make it to level 9 or have a good level 8 roll down if you're stuck on level 8. One or the other, because you have to stabilize really hard around this comp to eventually find like a Smolder or something like that. But what works out really well is because dragons give you free anti-heal, you pretty much never have to make like a Morello or a red buff. So that part of your utility is just dealt with instantly. Which is really good for mid game. It's really good for your mid game. It's also good for your late game. And because we're always going to be playing the Shyvana, we'll basically always have anti-heal on deck, so we don't have to worry about it. As opposed to like Shred and Sundering, which we'll eventually have to make those items to maximize our damage output for late game. As you can see, we lost that round. We're not particularly rich, but we're also not particularly poor. We're just making as many econ intervals as possible. Here I get a free Varus. So like I said before, a lot of times you can play like 6 Shapeshifter Varus, and you can play like Blaster Varus as a backline with Shapeshifters. That's typically the board that you settle on if you can't make it to level 9 to fit in the rest of the board and have like the whole 3 Dragon, 8 Shapeshifter setup. But for it's just good to have it because now I just have the insurance that I already found 1 copy of Varus. That's pretty much all you want to roll on level 8-4. Is 1 copy of Varus, 1 copy of Nasus. Now I'm going to get a Nasus for free, so I don't have to roll for Nasus, and now I have a Varus, so I should be relatively stable come stage 4 already, just because I had the carousel go my way, right? That was a very good carousel for me. Like I said before, though, you could stabilize your unit. My Shyvana kind of griefed, right? She just jumped straight towards the Radiant Archangel's Cassiopeia, so I lose that round. Like I said, we're just looking for stability here. Once we get into like a 6 Shapeshifter with like a proper damaging backline, we will be significantly more stable, and that's kind of how the board works in a way. Like I said before, though, you have to be really careful. Like sometimes with hard commit, you run into these spots where you think that you'll be really good. It's like, I'll be good in like 3 or 4 turns. I'll be really strong in like 3 or 4 turns or 4 or 5 turns or something like that. And sometimes you just lose the game for free. Something you have to be very vigilant about is in this lobby. For example, this guy has 9 fairy. He doesn't have it yet, but he has a fairy emblem on a on a wandering trainer, and he has a fairy emblem that he got from augment. The next augment that we hit, there's another guy that has a witchcraft emblem on his trainer dummy, so he might also hit 8 witchcraft. So those are 2 people that even if we hit this fast 9 board, we will probably not beat anyways. So us trying to stabilize around like this late game board that hopefully we hit everything, there's basically 2 people that already have like, you know, the chance to hit like a game winning spot. So we have to be very careful in managing our game here, because we're kind of lose streaking some of these rounds. We're trying to make sure we have really good econ. Then we're going to try and stabilize in stage 4 and try and fast 9 off of a good level 8 roll down where we're really strong. That might not work very well because of all of the other people that have like game winning spots on deck. See, so right here, now we can play the thing. Oh, I did switch out 6 Shapeshifter to get in the Hunter for the Nomsy. I think the rounds that I had Hunter in, I felt like they didn't go as well. My Shyvana just died too fast, and I think Shyvana does almost as much, if not more damage than Nomsy. So I was trying to experiment a little bit, and I lost 1 or 2 rounds. I'm not sure if it's entirely, like I said before, I'm not sure in the mid game which one is strictly better, because I feel like, you know, I have 2 if I had 3 items on Shyvana, it would definitely be the Shapeshifter. It's just hard to tell for me. My items aren't particularly great here, which sucks. But it's always going to be Guinsoo Redemption. That's the best case scenario. Redemption basically heals everybody based on their maximum HP, so it works really well with these Shapeshifter comps. You should always have at least 1 Redemption when you're playing Shapeshifters. And then my items aren't the greatest for Varus. I have Guinsoo and IE, but I could use these items to play towards Smolder if I hit a Smolder. Right now, I would say based on the rest of the lobby, there's a lot of people that have such really strong positions. Whenever you see people that they have these quote-unquote game-winning spots, you have to reevaluate your spot. Remember, I've been talking a lot about how this board is something that you try and go fast 9 with, so you can fit in the Smolder and the Briar as well. And that's like a typical like strategy that you're seeing a lot nowadays when you're playing around vertical Shapeshifter. The main problem that I have in this game in particular is that there's multiple people that even if I make it to fast 9, I will queue into their board and just lose instantly. Or there is the potential that that happens. Because there's the potential that that happens, I want to make sure that I roll down really aggressively on level 8 here to make sure that my stage 4, I preserve a lot of HP. Because if those people just win the game for free, like that guy could hit 9 fairy on level 8. It's very scary. So here, I took Martyr last augment. Martyr gives my whole team passive healing. Basically, when a unit dies, they heal percentage of their health, and shapeshifters will have a lot of health, so that works out really well for me. Here I take little buddies. I'm going to be playing around a 5 cost. I'm going to be playing around Briar. I'm going to be playing around Smolder, hopefully. And I'm going to keep in a lot of low cost units. I'm always playing Shyvana. I can always play Elise. I can always play Smolder. And I'm always going to play Jace. Nomsy, I'm always going to play Jace. So it's very, very, very good for me to play around these... play around little buddies. It gives my team a lot of extra stats because there's a good balance of 4 and 5 costs that I'm playing. On my roll down, as you can see, I'm not really setting myself up to fast 9. A lot of times if you're fast 9, you'll try and stay above like 30-ish gold just to rebuild your econ a little bit so that you can make it to level 9 and then do your roll down on level 9. Here, I just rolled it almost to 0. I rolled basically as deep as I could, trying to find upgrades to all of my units. That's because of the situation in the lobby. I think that there are many people that are in game-winning spots. Because I found a Smolder right now, we're good to go. Right? I'm 3 dragon now. We're good to go. This is a huge mistake that I do, and I want to correct it next round. So I just want to point this out. Shapeshifter emblem, I didn't want to put it on Smolder right away because I would rather put a 3rd damage item on Smolder because I think it's a little bit better than Shapeshifter. Now, 6 Shapeshifter is good and all. I'm not 8 Shapeshifter yet because I don't have a Briar. I will get a Briar on stage 5 so then I can level and then fit in 8 Shapeshifter, 3 Dragon and play that board. So now I'm just trying to greed up my econ and everything and make sure that I can make it to 9 on 5-1 to play the Briar on the board without having to drop this board in particular. Especially since I have the Smolder. You'll notice though that because I didn't put Shapeshifter emblem on Smolder, I think my Smolder is gonna die really early here because of the like AoE ult casting of the Callista. So this was a Shapeshifter on Smolder diff. That was just me being stupid. I was trying to greed. I was trying really hard to like put myself in a spot where like, you know, okay, like I think I'm stable. I'll just get like another item for Smolder and then I'll like put the item on Smolder and then I won't have to use a remover, blah blah blah. That was really dumb because that fight was a Shapeshifter on Smolder diff. Smolder does this thing where he flies around, so a lot of times he can even take aggro and just die from taking aggro. So I think in a lot of these cases, you should just put the Shapeshifter emblem on Smolder. I should have done that last turn. I think now, because I don't have a remover, I'm just going to be too scared. Like, I'm too wuss to worry about this. So I'm actually just going to sell my Nomsy and put the Shapeshifter emblem on the Smolder. So I have to downgrade from Nomsy 1 to Nomsy 2. That's a huge downgrade because Nomsy is doing quite a good amount of damage. But, you know, that's because I made a mistake the prior round. That's my bad. Right, you know, everybody makes mistakes sometimes, right? I'm still in Masters, and there's a reason. It's because of stuff like this, as well as, like, other things, obviously. Like, you know, I went 7th the game before this game, and the reason I went 7th was because I took Caramelized Comforts, and I just wanted to have fun, and I said, if I go bot 4, I go bot 4. I'm just gonna try and have fun this game. And yeah, it was fun, but like I went 8th, like I went 7th. It's just like I got fucking deleted off the face of the planet. I think I lost every single round. There was just somebody that was doing way worse than me, so they went 8th. But anyways, that's besides the point. Now that we have Shapeshifter emblem on Smolder, he should be able to tank a little bit if he takes some aggro, which is really great. He also gets a huge amount of HP, so he's going to get more healing value from Martyr as well, which helps out a little bit in this in some of these fights. But this is typically what can happen. It's not that hard to find one copy of Smolder, especially if you're lose streaking. Sometimes you get bailed out by Carousel as well. But if you don't have a Smolder, then you can usually just play a 2 blaster backline. So in place of the Smolder, you just play another blaster unit. It will be weaker, so you probably will have to roll a little bit deeper, right? You'll probably be rolling for Varus too if you drop too low on HP, right? If you dropped around 20 HP and you want to keep yourself alive, being 2 lives. You might roll a little bit more aggressively for like a Varus 2 and play around that. And you'd also want like Swain upgrade, Nasus upgrade, stuff like that. And then your board becomes a lot more stable. Here, the Shyvana is going to dive the backline almost always. So Shyvana is going to be like, as you can see here, she's just deleting the main damage dealer. My board is fucking insane because I have all these fucking Shapeshifter tanks all over the place. And Shyvana is going to do so much work. That's a Shyvana 2, right? But when you have 3 dragon in, even with 2 dragon sometimes, like, as long as you have, like, vertical Shapeshifter, she does, like, a good amount of damage. And because of the way that she, like, drives the backline, she just, like, jumps around a little bit. It's just insane. It's an insane amount of work, insane amount of damage. Here I high roll into a Briar. That's really good because now I'm Briar paired, Smolder paired. So my roll down on level 9 will actually help me out quite a bit to hit both of them upgraded. I'm going to get a Briar as soon as the next stage starts. You're going to see the Briar will appear on my bench. Now, here's the big age-old question that I'm going to answer for you the best that I can. Should we be feeding Briar every turn now? My answer is no. Now, I am not going to feed Briar here. The reason I'm not feeding Briar is because there are 2 people that have game-winning circumstances. I think one of them maybe died, like the Witchcraft guy. I'm not 100% sure. But there's the Witchcraft guy. There's also a Sugarcraft guy that might be playing towards 6 Sugarcraft. I forget exactly because I've played a couple Shapeshifter games in lieu of this game, like trying to learn how to play it properly. So I'm not sure exactly which one it is in terms of like everything that's going on. But feeding Briar, 1 feed on Briar doesn't really do anything, right? If you give Briar 150 HP, even with 8 Shapeshifter, that's the equivalent of just putting a belt on Briar. Like if I took that belt off of Nico and I put that belt on Briar, that would be the equivalency. When Briar becomes broken is two situations, right? The first situation is when Briar is 2-starred, right? When you have 2-star Briar. When you have 2-star Briar, then the HP really matters because she's like your main carry. When you have 3-item Briar, the feed starts to matter a lot. I neither have 2-star Briar or 3-star or 3-item on Briar. Right now my Shyvana is doing more damage than my Briar. When you feed, you are giving up the opportunity to play for placements. Right now I'm 37 HP. That's like 3 lives at minimum. I can survive 3 losses here and I'll still be alive. Without properly knowing, right? There's one guy that's Witchcraft that might hit 8 Witchcraft. Who knows? There's one guy that is playing towards Fairy that has 2 Fairy emblems already. So he might hit 9 Fairy. Like this guy right here. If this guy had a Milio right now, I would lose this fight guaranteed. And it wouldn't be close. I would lose this fight by multiple units. I would lose like 20 HP right now. Close to 20 HP. If I fight this guy and then I have bad matchmaking RNG and I fight him again, I can lose 2 rounds to this guy like that. Like that, and the game's fucking over. For right now, I would rather keep my HP, and once I know that I can play for first, I will start feeding the Briar. Once I know that I am stable and that I can play for first, I will start feeding the Briar. See, like right now, I'm going to hit Briar 2. Now is where I think you can decide whether or not you're going to feed the Briar. Right now, I think that both are fine. I think you can decide to feed the Briar, or you can decide to not feed the Briar. I think both are correct at this point in time. The reason is not because of my situation, it's because of the situation of everybody else in the lobby. That fairy player will always beat me. It doesn't matter how many times I feed this Briar. 9 fairy will win. Straight up. This guy's trying to Pandora's his way into an 8 witchcraft. If he just hits the Pandora's on the 8 witchcraft, I'm pretty sure I also lose to this guy. Because Briar will just get turned into a frog, and she will probably die. That happens often, right? It has happened to me in the past. Now he's dead, so now there's one less person to worry about. But that's what you always have to consider. When you feed Briar, the way you should look at feeding Briar is not that you feed her once and you're good. I fed Briar once. She's strong now. No. Briar feeding is really, really noticeably broken when you feed her 3 or 4 times. Also, just small aside, is that a shapeshifter emblem on carousel? I hope somebody denies me, because if not, I'm probably winning the game. And GG. Let's go. It's not on my side, but this guy doesn't take it, so I'm down. Nice. That's insane, because right now I don't have Blaster in for Smolder. With a shapeshifter emblem, now I can play Varus. I get Pyro and Blaster. Insane. Absolutely insane. So this is a Giga Highroll game. It's one of those games. Sorry about that. Right now I just play Milio, because Milio drops a bunch of items. Ideally, I want to hit a Varus to give Blaster to Smolder. But I don't hit it, so I'm just going to buy Charm here. I'm never going to play Jace anymore because I'm 8 Shapeshifter anyways. So I'm going to probably I could probably sell Jace for money. But I'm rolling for a Charm here because I'm just trying to like stabilize. I'm also rolling for like Smolder upgrade. I don't hit a Charm, so I just take this one for Econ, whatever. It's 5 gold, it's 5 gold. As you can see here, I was considering feeding the Briar. I was going to feed the Briar this turn potentially. But I just didn't do it in time. Like I said, now's around the time. When you think about feeding Briar, when it becomes broken is when you feed her 3 or 4 times, right? One feed on Briar is the equivalent to like having a belt on her. It's not that big of a deal. Feeding Briar like 3 or 4 times, then it's the equivalent of like a Warmogs. Then you're up like a whole item relative to the rest of the lobby. So it makes a big difference. Here, that fight I don't think was a feed diff. I don't think if I fed Briar 2 or 3 times, that would have made any difference. Anyways, I find the Varus, so now I can fit in the Varus for the synergies. I'm going to shapeshift with the Varus, because then I can put the Varus a little bit more forward, so that his ult does a little bit better, and maybe gets like a cheesy execute off. But anyways, what I was trying to say is that it doesn't make sense for me to feed Briar until I know that I'm playing for first. Because if not, I need to have enough HP to survive against the fairy guy. Like, this fairy guy got really unlucky, by the way. Look at him. He went to level 9, and he still hasn't found a Milio. This is what I was trying to say before, right? Sometimes you just don't find a Milio. If I had fed Briar the last 2 or 3 turns, I don't think I would have beat the portal guy. Straight up. I don't think I beat the portal guy that turn, because I didn't have Smolder 2. That did not look like a Briar fucking feed dip. It did not look like if I fed Briar twice, she was going to win that fight for me. Straight up. And this fight, I would have lost if this guy found a Milio this turn. So I would rather have the HP here, because if I lost that fight, I might have lost 22 HP. And then look, I would have gotten 5th this game. Straight up. Right? If you look at the HP, somebody else died that turn. Right? If I was lower HP than the guy that died that turn, I would have lost the game. I would have gotten 5th. That would have been my LP. But now things are different. Now there is 2 people left in the lobby. There's 1 or 2 people that beat me. Now I'm feeding Briar every single round. Because now it doesn't matter. Now I'm 19 HP. It's stage 6. If I fight somebody, I will probably die. I got really lucky that the fairy guy didn't hit. Now there's nobody left to deal with me, right? There's just the portal guy, which I can survive maybe 1 round against the portal guy. Who knows? Because I have Martyr and I have 8 Shapeshifter, I don't think I need to give Omnivamp to Briar. So I'm just going to go full damage on Briar here. Shyvana is still doing a lot of work. I think I should transfer one of the Shyvana items onto the Briar. But I think that's just me being slow. I didn't use my remover here. We find the Smolder. I was rolling for Smolder. I'm Smolder 2. I feed Briar. I was supposed to use the remover and put the Titans on the Briar as well. Now I can feed Briar because I think I can win the game. And now I can stack up those feeds to like 3 or 4 feeds, right? I already fed her twice. So I fed her on the neutral round and I fed her on the current round. So she's plus like what? Like 300 and something HP. And then with 8 Shapeshifter, that stockpiles significantly. So once you get to like 4 or 5 feeds, then the game's just over. She has so much HP. Because if she has like plus 1000 HP, that gets like fucking quadrupled with Shapeshifter. So she's like plus like 4000 HP when she transforms. Right? It's fucking insane. So you just gotta be wary of that. Right? The way you should always look at it is, if you commit to feeding, you have to feed her like at least 3 times. That's like my number that I justified by looking at like my own way of looking at stats and looking at the actual units and reading their description and trying to like calc it up the best that I can. In my opinion, if you're not committing to feed Briar 3 times, you shouldn't feed her. At that point, it's gonna be almost like it's like anecdotal, right? Maybe if there's a fight where you look at it and it's like you can't judge it and you think it's gonna be very close. But now at this point, I'm running away with it because now I got to feed Briar 3 or 4 times. The people that look like they were gonna have game-winning spots, they're all dead, right? The Witchcraft and the Fairy guy are both dead. This guy doesn't have a chance in hell. I have Smolder 2, Varus 2, 6 Shapeshifter. Everything's fucking broken on my board. So it's just down to if I beat this Rise player who really like destroyed me the last time we played. But now I'm significantly stronger. I have items on Briar. I should have transferred this Titans on the Briar before. I don't know why I'm not doing it. Yeah, that should have happened like 2 or 3 turns ago. The Briar now is outscaling the Shyvana and doing more damage. Because it's like, it's end of game now. I can just feed Briar. If I lose, I lose. If I win, I win. I'm playing for first now. And you'll see that I'll feed Briar every single turn. And my Briar will be absolutely unstoppable. That's the way that I like to play around Briar. I feed Briar once I know that my threats are gone and I'm playing for first. Because there's so many times when the set started that I would feed Briar, I would queue into a 9 Fairy or 8 Witchcraft guy, and I would just lose 20 HP and then I'd go 5th. I want to make sure that of course you can maybe like argue one way or the other. I don't care. That's my play style, right? That's the way that I do it. If you want to feed Briar earlier, if you thought that as soon as I hit Briar, I should have started feeding, by all means, do that in your games. I'm down. I think that you can justify it. Go ahead. Have fun, right? I don't know what to tell you. To me, it seems ridiculous if somebody has a spot that they might get first to start feeding the Briar, because then the only thing that separates placement, right? Like if somebody hits 9 Fairy, the only thing that separates placement, it doesn't matter how many times I feed Briar, I'm not beating 9 Fairy. Right? Maybe RNG if Briar like kills the Callista instantly, but the chances are I'm not beating 9 Fairy. So if the 9 Fairy guy hits, the only thing that changes our placements is who rotates into the Fairy player first, and whether you go first, second, third, or fourth. So whoever has the most HP is going to be the one that hits that spot. So that's the way I look at it. If there's somebody in the lobby that looks like that, I avoid at all costs. If there's not somebody that looks like that, then I start feeding and then I play for it. Right? HP is a resource. You have to decide which one's better. That's all I'll say about it. Now, I've been talking about feeding Briar for like fucking 20 minutes in this video. There was a video in the past that I did where I didn't feed Briar and people were arguing that I should have fed Briar earlier. That's totally fine. But I always play like this. I look around, and if it doesn't look like I'm going to win the game, I don't feed the Briar and I play for placement. Because there's so many times where you misjudge a fight and it's all hindsight, in my opinion. It's only hindsight when you look at it. So I fed Briar like 3 or 4 turns. I wish I hovered it. Hopefully I hover it at one point so you guys can see how much Briar is. I bought a random charm and I got a support item, so that's pretty good. I'm gonna feed Briar one more time. And yeah, the other guy just FF'd. So it's a first. He wasn't gonna win anyways, so it's fine. But that's 8 Shapeshifter into Fast 9. Now we obviously high rolled because we hit the Smolder early. But it was a really fun game and hopefully it was somewhat informative. I'm trying my best to give you guys some level of like variance in my gameplay. You know, I'm not just like abusing playing mages every single game, something like that. Where I'm trying to do different comps, and when it works out, I can try and explain what I did and how it worked out. So hopefully this was entertaining. We just fed Briar all the way to a top 4. 8, and the biggest high roll is hitting the second shapeshifter, because then we're able to play we're able to easily play 8 shapeshifter with the blaster to give our smolder a huge amount of damage increase. But anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully that was enjoyable, and have a great rest of the day. Now, I will warn you, tomorrow's video will probably be like a Vigor video, so, you know, don't get too scared. But, you know, we'll try and mix in some fun VODs as well. I'm trying to balance it a little bit with, like, things that are really consistent and strong in the patch, and things that might require a little bit of, like, situational spots for. But thank you for watching. Have a great day, and, yeah, have a great rest of the week as well.